Hello and welcome everyone. In this video, let's authenticate a Next.js application with NextAuth. NextAuth is an open source library that is specifically made for authenticating Next.js applications. It has many OAuth providers like Google, email, Facebook, and Apple, and many more. And the most interesting feature about NextAuth is we don't have to sacrifice our data to any service provider. We can just store our data by bringing in our own database. In this tutorial, we will be using GitHub OAuth and store the data in a database using Prisma ORM. So Prisma is a next generation Node.js and TypeScript ORM. If you have no idea what it is, I have a video. I will link that in the description. And we will store our user data inside of a SQLite database. So let's get started. To save some time, I have created a Next.js app and added some starter code. So if you go to this repository that I have put in the description, you can just clone the repo and check out to the branch starter. So here we have the starter code which has some basic components, so we don't have to waste time in some unnecessary things. Open your terminal and let's clone the repo. And let's go into this directory and open it in your favorite editor. I am using VS Code here. And now let's open our inbuilt terminal inside of VS Code and check out to the starter branch. So main branch has the final code. So let's check out to starter branch. So this is let's now install the dependencies by npm install. And this will install all the dependencies including the NextAuth package that we are using. So if we just see the dependencies inside of package.json, we have NextAuth, that's the authentication library that we are using. We have Bootstrap and we have React Bootstrap for a little bit of styling. So now the installation is complete and let's run the dev server and let's see what we have got in this starter. So run npm run dev and it will start a local development server on port 3000. So command click it and it will open it in the browser. As you can see, we got the basic application. Here we have a nav bar on the top and we have a sign in button, and this is the home page. And we also have a page called dashboard which will be protecting. So if you go to /dashboard, you can see these are the secrets, and that's it. This is the basic starter code that we have got. So now let's start integrating NextAuth. So inside of your code editors, go to pages and navigate to API folder, and here let's create a folder called auth. And inside this auth, we will create a catch all route that will catch all the routes that starts with /auth, and we'll say it as NextAuth. And we have to put 3 dots in front of it so that it catches all the routes that start with /auth. And here we will configure NextAuth. First, let's import NextAuth, and then let's export a default function that will call NextAuth. And here we can pass some options, and the option we want to pass is providers. And here we want to say that we want to use GitHub as a provider. So first we have to import GitHub as a provider. So we will go GitHub provider from NextAuth /provider /GitHub, and then let's pass GitHub provider. And here this provider needs some configuration, which is the client ID and the client secret. So these are we get these by creating GitHub OAuth application. So let's do that now. To create a new GitHub OAuth app, go to github.com and click on your profile icon and go to settings. Inside the settings, scroll down until you find developer settings. Here, click on OAuth apps and create a new OAuth app. So click on register a new application and name your application. And this is important part, homepage of your URL. Let's do http://localhost port 3000, and description is optional. And this one is an important one, which is the authorization callback. Let me quickly show you what value goes here. So head over to NextAuth and click on documentation. Here in the configuration, go to providers and click on OAuth. If you scroll down, you can see a section where it says about callback URLs. The redirect URI, sometimes called callback URL, should follow this format: origin API /auth /callback /provider. So for our case, it's gonna be GitHub. So copy this. We will replace Twitter with GitHub. So if you go to our new OAuth app, paste this and replace Twitter with GitHub. If you have your application running on some other port, make sure you change this, or else NextAuth will throw errors. And click on register application. After registering application, you will get a client ID, but we have to create a client secret. So click on this generate a new client secret, and it will generate a new secret. Make sure you copy this. It will not show you again if you just lose this. It will be displayed only for once. So copy this and make sure you paste it somewhere safe. So now let's use these API keys in our application. So I'm going to create a local env file. So I'm going to create .env.local where I'm going to store my API keys. So first one is GitHub ID, and that will be this ID, client ID. And next one is GitHub secret, and this will be the secret that we have generated. Copy from here and paste it here. Since we have a new environment variables file, we have to restart our dev server so that the changes takes place. So I have restarted the server, and you can see here it has loaded environment from this .env.local file. Now let's put these environment variables in the GitHub provider of NextAuth. So client ID will be process.env.github ID, and client secret will be process.env.github secret. Now let's configure the front end part of NextAuth. So go to your _app.tsx and import session provider from NextAuth/React and wrap our my app inside of this session provider. So basically when we authenticate, we will have the access of session with this session provider. And let's pass session is page props.session. So it will store the session inside of page props.session. Now we have everything set up to start our authentication. So let's go to our header, and inside of components, go to header, and here let's start authenticating our app. So let's first import few things from NextAuth. Here we need some functions like sign in. So let's use this sign in function here when we click on this button. So on click, we are gonna say sign in with GitHub. Now this is important. We can also pass a second parameter where we can say callback URL is localhost/3000 dashboard. So what happens is when we click this, we are gonna be prompted for GitHub OAuth, and when we authorize this, we will be pushed directly to this dashboard page. So let's try how it's going. So here when we come back to localhost, let me just do a hard refresh, and when I click sign in, it should prompt me for GitHub. As you can see, we are getting the prompt, and we are getting our application name. You can also provide your company logo or something here, and then we can just say authorize Sairaj Chauhan, which is my name, and then after authorizing, we will be redirected to dashboard. As you can see, we are on the dashboard page now. Now let's go and use some hooks and get the user back. So NextAuth also provides a hook called use session, and this comes from NextAuth/React. And here we have two properties. One is data and one is status. So let's print both of them to the console. And if you just go and check inside of console, we will be having our user data. As you can see, first is object, which is our user object, which has an expired and the user and the name, image, and email. And also we have the second parameter as authenticated. So that's the status of our application. So now that we are authenticated, let's just go and show logout as the user is logged in now. So let's say if status is authenticated, if he is authenticated, so let's show a button, logout button. So here I am gonna say logout. It's gonna not do anything for now, but let's just show it. If we are not authenticated, let's show this sign in button. And if you just go and see, you can see we have the logout button. But if I refresh, you will see there is a wrong content for a flash of time. So initially it will go and show you sign in, and immediately it will see we have a user and we are seeing logout. So this is not a good UI and UX experience for the user. So we will tackle this. To solve this wrong content for a flash of a time, we are going to create a Auth Wrapper, and for that we are going to wait until our application loads. So I'm going to create a Auth Wrapper.tsx, and here basically we are going to listen to this status, and if it's loading, we will not render our children. So first we will take the children in, and children is of type React/React node, and then we will render our children. We don't need an extra div here, and here we will use a use session hook, as we will wrap this inside of the session provider. So we will have access to use session, which will come from NextAuth, and here let's bring the status of our application. And here next we will say if status is loading, we will return null. So we will return null so that our application doesn't render any of our children. And let's wrap this inside of our underscore app. So here inside of our underscore app, let's go and say Auth Wrapper, and let's import it, and let's put our header and our component inside of our Auth Wrapper. And now if we go and check our browser, you can no longer see the flash wrong content. So if I just refresh now, it shouldn't show sign in, it should directly show logout. So let's refresh it, and it's loading, and then we directly see logout. But this logout doesn't has any functionality, so let's just implement the functionality for logout. So inside the header.tsx, I'm gonna import sign out from NextAuth, and whenever we click that button which is logout, we will say sign out. And here for sign out, we can also provide a callback URL, so it will just redirect there. So if we just sign out, we will be redirected to / that's index page. So let's go and give it a try. So when I click logout, I should expect that our user is null, and we will be redirected to the index page. So logout, and there we go. We don't have anything, and our user is null, and we are unauthenticated. Exactly what we wanted. Now let's just make our header look a little bit prettier. So I will just paste some code, and I will explain you what's happening there. So here I have, if we have a data on user and we have an image, we are going to show an image, and then we are going to show a dashboard, and we also have a logout button and have a login button, and we have separate functions for that. So I also have to write those functions. So I will copy them and I will paste them here. And this is the same thing that we have done, handle sign in, and I'm just doing await here. It doesn't matter even if you don't wait, because that's the last statement. So this is handle sign in, handle logout, so that we have passed here onto this buttons. Let's go and see how a navbar looks. So if I refresh, we are logged out. So let's go and log in. So when I say sign in, it will just directly log me in, and it will show a beautiful navbar which has a user avatar and a link to dashboard. But now there is another problem. That is, if we just go and log out, and if someone navigates directly to the URL and says I want dashboard, you can see the route is not protected. So we have to make a protected route. So let's go to our editor and let's create a new component called protected route. And here let's create a basic React component. And here it's the same thing that we do. We will take the children, which is of type children is of type react.react node, and then let's render our children here. We don't need an extra div. And again, here we are going to use the session and check the status of the authentication flow. So let's bring in the use session from NextAuth. Here let's take the status, and inside of the use effect we are gonna check if the status is unauthenticated. So let's do if status equals so I think things haven't imported yet, so I will import use session. It's not auto importing me. Okay, it has auto imported me, and let's get use effect. And now if status is unauthenticated, not window.location, we will use our Next.js router. So let's bring our Next.js router, which is const router is use router, which will be from next/router. And if its status is unauthenticated, let's push the user back to the index page, and then we can see some warnings here. And if you just see what's there are some missing dependencies. So a little hack, if you just want to autofill that, press Control dot and click on this update dependencies array, and it will just autofill it. Also, let's just protect our render, because we may just render our children even before running this effect. So we will also protect this. That is, if status is unauthenticated, here also we will just return null. So we got our basic protected route, and then we have to use this inside of our auth wrapper. So let's do it this way. So how I do this every time is, I will just list out a regular expression or just normal routes directly inside of strings as auth routes, and I will just selectively put a wrapper around those particular routes. So let me just show you how. So I've created an array auth routes which has my authentication the router that I wanted to protect, that's /dashboard. And here, while we return before rendering the children, I am going to check if let me just so we have to bring the router, because we will check the path name of the current route. So I will bring the router is use router. Okay, then here I will check if auth routes dot includes, if this includes the router dot path name, so the current path name of the route, if this auth routes includes this path name, then we have to protect that route. So I will render a protected route. So inside of protector route, I'm gonna send the children. If it's not, then we will just render the children directly. Now let's go and see if our dashboard is protected. So here I will just navigate to /dashboard. I'm not authenticated, so if I just hit enter, it should redirect me back to index page. As you can see, we got redirected, and let's test if we are allowed to go to dashboard if we sign in. So I sign in. As you can see, we are on the dashboard page. So protected routes and unprotected routes are working perfect. At this moment, the basic OAuth authentication flow is perfectly fine and it's working, but we are not storing any user data. So in any typical application, we would like to store the user data. So let's see how can we do that with NextAuth's adapters. So if you just go to NextAuth here, inside the documentation here, as you can see, we have some adapters. These adapters are for ORMs and databases, and here we can see Prisma. So NextAuth has support for Prisma as an adapter. Now let's install whatever we have extra packages here. So first is we want Prisma client and our adapter. So let me just copy this and come on to the VS Code, and in a new terminal I'm gonna paste it here, but I probably don't, not probably, I don't need a NextAuth because I already have it. So I will just remove that from there and hit enter. It will install, and we also need Prisma as a dev dependency. This is a CLI thing of Prisma. So I will open yet another terminal and let me just put it here. So this will install concurrently. So next what we have to do is here we have to pass adapter as a Prisma. So let's do that. So let me just copy here. We need these three buddies here. So I've copied them, and let's head over to API auth and NextAuth. Here let me just quickly paste it, and we are bringing Prisma adapter from NextAuth Prisma adapter, and we are bringing Prisma client. We are initializing the Prisma client, and then here we have to pass adapters is Prisma adapter of, and then we have to pass in our Prisma instance. And I think that's all it's needed, but we have to start the Prisma project. If everything is installed, let's do that. So it's still installing. I will just wait for a bit. So installation is complete, and now let's initialize our Prisma project. So type npx prisma init -- data source provider as SQLite. So SQLite is a file system database. You don't have to install anything. It's just a file. So as you can see, there's a bunch of things happening here. Let me just explain you. It created a .env file in which it has the environment variable for our file. But since it is just a demo application, I'm not going to use environment variables. So I've just cut the file path, and I will just delete .env. And then inside of Prisma, here we have to specify the path of the database. So here, since we have removed the environment variable, I'm going to just paste the path, which is file./dev.db. So when we push the data into this database, we will see here a dev.db file. Now let's go to NextAuth and see what we have to do next. So next, they say we have to create a Prisma schema. So let's go and copy everything from here. So here there are a few things that we can avoid because only needed this when we use a cloud provider that doesn't support creating a new database. So since we are doing this everything with SQLite, so these are not needed, and this is not needed if you are using Prisma 3.x, and we are using Prisma 3.x. So we will just copy all the models here. So let me just copy all of them and come here and paste it in the prisma.schema file. And you can see there are few errors here. So that's because Prisma is saying me few things. That's because of the Prisma extension here in the VS Code. I will show you that. Native type text is not supported for SQLite connector. So this is possible because of the extension Prisma. I definitely recommend that. It also does some formatting and many other things, and finding some errors like this. So I will just remove them. since SQLite doesn't have them. And let me just save it. As you can see, it formatted a little bit. Now let's make this schema changes to our actual database. So open your terminal and say npx prisma db push. So this will create changes in the database without creating a migration file or something like that. As you can see, there will be dev.db file popping up here, as you can see there. And then it's also generating the types for us, as you can see here, generated Prisma client to node modules Prisma client. So now we got the necessary schema that we should have for authenticating apps using Next.js. Now all we have to do is just go and authenticate our user once again, and we will be having some awesome data in our database. So I've just logged this out, and let me just log in back again, and everything will be pretty much same, but the only difference is now when you come to that let's open the terminal here, and Prisma has a cool thing. This is very awesome about Prisma, that's why I only use Prisma. Go and hit npx prisma studio. So it will open a studio kind of thing where you can manipulate the data and you can see the data in your database. So I've opened that since I've logged in again with the adapter. So we should be seeing, as you can see here, we have 111 for the user, session and account. So if you go to user, as you can see, we got our user. This is like pretty awesome thing that NextAuth does. You just have to provide an adapter and it will just take care of everything. And this is account, just to keep in track what kind of account they have logged in, like GitHub or something like that. And there is a session. So if you just log out, this will be gone. So let's test that. I'm here and I'm going to click log out, and I've logged out. And if I just come here and refresh, as you can see, that's gone. So database session has been vanished. I think that's pretty much it. You can just do this authentication with NextAuth and Prisma, which is pretty awesome. And one other thing I just want to mention is you cannot change this. You just cannot change the names of this rows. If you want to have some custom things here, you should write your own adapter. That's kind of a thing that I don't like about NextAuth. But if you just leave that aside, this is just awesome thing to do authentication to your Next.js apps. I guess that's it for the video. If you have watched this video till now, thank you so much. Consider liking and subscribing to my channel. Namaskaram. See you in the next video.